Welcome to the Rugby Rundown with Jan de Koning, my good friend down in Cape Town. Jan, we have a bit of a competition today. Who's the coldest, you know? Whose weather is the worst at the
I
moment?
think,
What's it like by you?
just realized I think Joburg is beating us by a whisker. We started off at a brisk 2 to 3 degrees this morning, and we will eventually reach 20 degrees. But I just looked at Gauteng, and I don't think there's any place that I've seen that's going to get double digits in Gauteng. So I think that one you win. Certainly
Yeah.
Pretoria
Well, I saw the first pictures now of snowing in the Joburg CBD. So there you go. We take it.
yeah.
Hands down. All right, listen, let's just talk about the weather quickly about tonight's game against the All Blacks versus the Sharks. I mean, I suppose you can't plan for the weather, but I mean, it's right in the middle of the coldest spell, I suppose, of this entire winter. How many people do you think is going to pitch up at Kings Park tonight? Just, going to brave this weather. I think it's going to be like, I don't know, single digits, cold and wet. And, would you want to go watch that game?
Well, the Drakensberg is snowed under as well. The roads closed and all sorts of stuff. So I don't think that'll influence the attendance, but it certainly will make it. Well, it will influence because it's makes Durban very cold. yeah. So it's
Yeah.
going to be.
Well,
I don't think we'll have a massive crowd, but people will. I would expect about a half full stadium, and that would be an achievement. I think if they get 20,000 plus, I think it's an achievement given it's a midweek game and it's going to be a late game. But then again, it's Durban. Who knows? Durban likes a good party.
Yeah. Oh, that's not about the party. It's how cold it's going to be. It's the funny thing is that we gave away 2 tickets to one of our avid Shark supporters living up here in Gauteng, and they're not sure if they can get to Durban because of the snow.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh man, that's a bit of a bummer. But anyway, yeah, let's talk about this match. I want to know, why are they playing all three the URC matches, these three, before the first test? Why not typically like a normal tour, play one and then test and then another one in the midweek and then a test and another one? Why all these three bunched together at the start? Doesn't that give the All Blacks a bit of an advantage?
That's what the All Blacks probably wanted. So they asked to start at the sea. So Dave Rennie admitted that they prefer to start at the sea. It gives him a week and 2 games to get into the rhythm. He's rotating his touring team a bit as well, and every player will get a run in the first 3 matches. So coming Saturday is Bulls at Loftus. So everybody's going to get a run, and I think Ardie Savea arrives sometime this week, but I don't think he's going to play before the first test.
Yeah, I thought he was going to arrive the week before the test. That's actually interesting. Interesting that he's here earlier. Let's talk about the All Blacks team that's been announced. Quite a strong team. Most notably, Luke Jacobson is the captain. Now, we remember Luke Jacobson for the test against Ireland. He got a yellow card for supposedly slipping when he dove into a into a breakdown or a maul or a ruck. What do you know about Jacobson? Why is he made captain? I see Dave Rennie said he's a natural choice as captain. Why?
Yeah, it's so difficult. I mean, as much as I like to be in those press conference stuff, a lot of it's become very sanitized. They're so guarded against giving you real information. And I enjoy Rennie. He sometimes, if you ask him the right questions, especially the All Blacks, if you ask them the right questions, then sometimes they'll pause and they'll give you a proper answer. They still won't give away too much, but it's better than the cliche. So natural captain, that cliche, yeah. Everybody's getting a run, and he'll have guys because the hooker is also not, Cody Taylor is also not ready yet. So that's why Luke Jacobson is probably getting a run and being captain this week.
Talk about this press conference. You just said now the All Blacks, if you ask them the right question, they give you a proper answer. Does that mean if you ask the Springboks the right question, you get a right answer, or is that turning into pretty much a cliche at the moment?
No, I found Rassie quite honest at the weekend. He disagreed with me about my view that Argentina was similar. I didn't say they're exactly similar. I said they're not nearly as clinical as the All Blacks, but they played a similar. Their passing rate and their kicking rate differs markedly. Whereas the Springboks pass and run carry rates. So I did an article which is up this morning. So the Springboks passing and or carry and pass rates is very close together, which means we don't pass as much as the All Blacks. The All Blacks sometimes their passing rate is double their carry rate, which means there's always quick offloads. They move the ball very quickly. And Argentina did a lot of that in that first half. Then the Springboks made adjustment on defense. And the Springboks defensive numbers were quite impressive. I mean, it doesn't mean it's perfect, but it was, especially the second half, their defense was. But to get back to your question about Rassie, when I asked him that, he differed with me that Argentina, he says, it's not necessarily the same. They're more like South Africa physical, which they are, but they also move the ball a lot more than the Springboks. So, and the Springboks had to make an adjustment on defense because of the way Argentina played, which managed to shut them down in the second half, because it was 10-all at halftime. Springboks scored 7 points in the second half and won the game, So I think that, to me, that's at least Rassie answered honestly. He didn't throw out a bunch of cliches that we play blah, 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 blah. We're going to focus on our own game and all that stuff. I mean, you can write a book of cliches. I think maybe somebody must write a book of cliches for sports coaches.
It's definitely not cliche. That's a fact. I mean, when they asked him about Cameron Hanekom being the new, Wonder Boy, Golden Boy at number 8, he was quite adamant about Jasper Wiese still being the first choice number 8. Why did he react so vehemently, do you think?
I thought he was a little bit frustrated. Yeah, I don't know if he wants people to be fanboys, because there are quite a few of them. But if you ask him something, if you differ with him, he will. And I don't mind that. If Rassie differs with you, I don't want to say aggressively, but vehemently is quite a good word. He's firm and he's animated. That's another word. Rassie is animated in his responses. I don't mind that. He's entitled to differ with me, and he can be as animated as you like. At least he gives me a proper answer, and he gave you a proper answer. Jasper is number 1. Now everybody knows. Jasper's number 1. But I mean, we knew that before because he said that before. He ranked him before the trip to Argentina. He ranked, and he mentioned this. I think we spoke about it last week. The 6 number 8s that's in the back, and that includes
all the videos.
Stuff like that, So Rassie's been, I think he's just been honest. People might think that he's a bit too animated. I don't mind that at all, as long as he's honest. And if he differs with you and he pushes back against your view, that's his right. He's the coach. He's the guy who's going to coach that team. So I have no problem with Rassie's mannerisms, if you want to call it that. He's still a character. He's still an unbeaten Springbok coach. Well, on an 11-match winning streak. So, yeah.
Yeah, you know what? If I was a coach, any coach for that matter, I mean, these press conferences are so predictable. They're always the same. You always get the same questions from the same people, and you have to give the same answers. I mean, it gets a bit boring, doesn't it? I mean, you've been to hundreds or thousands of these, I suppose, all over the world, including World Cups and everything else. I mean, just doesn't it get a bit old after a while?
That's why you need to look at something different. So instead of going there with an agenda, look at the game. So my question was based on the fact I looked at that first half, and I looked at the number of passes they threw compared to the number of carries. And that's why I did the article. And I thought, wow, this massive difference. Because John Dobson on the Friday night mentioned this, is that the All Blacks are definitely going to run every time. That's their game. They're not going to change their game. So that offload, carry to offload ratio, that in the All Blacks is way up to from where the Springboks are. So, if the Springboks will have 11 or 12 passes for every 10 carries. So where the All Blacks will have 20 offloads or passes. The All Blacks on average offload 12 times a game. Yeah, I mean, they just play it on a different level. But they want to avoid physical contact because I don't think their forwards are that physical. So, if you want to beat the All Blacks, and I think the France, the Bordeaux team, Bordeaux version of the French team showed that you can, I wouldn't say bully them, but you can keep them in check by being physical and denying them possession and their offloads, So also our defense system, our defense pattern is a lot tighter than Ireland's was, So I think that's why against the French they struggled more than even though it was their first test of the year, they struggled more than they did against Ireland because, those little chip kicks and stuff. So Africa will know that you got to have a roaming player at the back there for those chip kicks.
Talking about offloads, the one try that the Puma scored was because of an offload that caught everybody unawares, and he's now saying the All Blacks have 12 offloads per match. That spells danger, don't you think?
Oh yes, absolutely. So our defense has been acceptable for most part. 1 or 2, we had a couple of games of the 4. So I look at 4 games for each team. So the All Blacks had 3 Nations Championships and Stormers. For South Africa, I looked at the 3 Nations Champions in Argentina. we had two games where our defense, I think it was Wales, but Wales doesn't pose much of a threat, but give them credit, they had 93% tackle success rate. And one other game, I'm now talking under correction, one other game, I'm not sure exactly, I can't remember exactly which games, I have to look it up again. But one other game they had 92%. The rest of the time they were sitting at 86, 85% tackle success rate. So there is a bit of work to do there on defense, but that's one aspect where we can get them. If we get our defense right, if we get them under pressure, that offload game backfires because you know that you're going to tackle them behind the advantage line, and their forwards have to retreat all the time. You know, if you have to run 5 meters back to join a ruck, if you have to run 5 meters back to join a ruck, that's going to be a massive. So it will force them perhaps to play a bit more tighter or kick a bit more.
Do you think the All Blacks were surprised by the physicality they experienced against the Stormers? Because we know Super Rugby is typically not that physical. It's a much faster type of running game, fewer kicks, lots of, like you just said, offloads and carries and the likes. Do you think they were taken aback by the way the Stormers play and then obviously by extension how the South African teams play?
Not consciously, maybe subconsciously they were, but Dave really spoke before and after. He spoke about the need to get into get used to this physical approach from South African teams. And that's one of the reasons you asked about the 3 games up front. That's one of the reasons. Now they get a good taste. You know, Stormers really physical, in your face defense. I'm not sure what the Sharks are going to do tonight under JP Peterson, what their defensive pattern is, but we know that the Bulls is also going to have a in your face defense, very physical up front. So that part of the game is what they need to get used to. And he admitted, because I was asking the direct question, was this the type of work that you wanted to get used to the South African teams? And he said yes. So that's obvious that they're using these games to get the players accustomed from the tackles, defense being optional in Super Rugby to now you have to really tackle and you have to really be in your face. You have to be physical with your carries. So yeah, it's part of the learning curve, but they went subconsciously. Some of the players might not have expected it because it'll be their first experience of that.
Yeah, let's get back to the Sharks versus the All Blacks. We got a bit sidetracked there, but it's easy to get sidetracked about the Springboks. But this game against the tonight, I mean, he's now giving a lot of other players a chance. The guy who was flown in to replace George Bell, Bradley Slater, is going to make his debut off the bench. The captain, like I said, Luke Jacobson. But for me, more interesting, the Sharks team. Number one, they put out a team and they forgot to put the entire team on. Then they recalled it and replaced it on social media. And then they still forgot to fully name the bomb squad or the bench. And then they had to withdraw it and repost it again. It smells to me like the Sharks and social media, they focus too much on social media and not enough on the rugby. Just quickly, your thoughts on that.
Yeah, that's a upper management thing. So the owners, Americans, have it clear, and you know Masoti, he's a very honest person, and he has been quite open about the fact that social media is an avenue they actively exploring. So there's a big drive on social media to reach a new audience, and I understand that you want to reach a new audience, but the problem is those social media guys and the influence and those guys that they reach, and maybe you want to talk about the influencers, but those people reach a new audience, but that audience doesn't get television viewers or bums on the seat in the stadium. So if that's not your focus, if that's a thing, then obviously they must have a plan to commercialize their social media channels. And if that's a strong stream of income, if that's an international, if you can get into the international market and start earning dollars and euros, then that's a right call. So I haven't got a problem with that, but it clearly is a conscious decision that they made to focus on social media. It doesn't give, like you say, they have to repeat and resend their team announcements, but yeah, it's just one of those things.
Yeah, but I mean, you would suppose the social media guy would at least know what a proper team looks like. There's 23 players, 15 in the starting lineup and 8 on the bench. It's quite simple.
The social media team may be as aware of rugby protocol or nuances than those influencers who are getting paid to drive the numbers on social media.
Well, let's talk about the influencers getting paid. And the Sharks launched their new logo last week, and from what I understand, in my own opinion, is it's woeful. It looks like a Nemo with teeth kind of a thing. guppy with teeth. And now suddenly it's not the Sharks anymore, it's the SRC. And nowhere that I can see on that jersey, the jersey itself is a nice design. Yes, I agree. That looks nice. Looks like a, old school kind of a, Sharks jersey. I like it. But nowhere does it say Sharks. It says SRC. And even on the supporters, shirts and stuff that they sell, nowhere does it say Sharks. So you look like anybody else wearing a Reebok t-shirt. Nobody knows that you're actually a Sharks supporter. Compare that to the Stormers, even with their new logo, at least it's heavily branded, it's a Stormers shirt and everything else. So that backlash was quite big, I suppose. And then suddenly we see all these influencers popping up that are, some of them rugby guys, some of them not, saying, no, but it's actually not as bad. Look how nice it looks and everything else. I mean, it just smacks off, getting people to say, tell us, say some positive things about our new logo, because this backlash is much bigger than we expected. I've got a feeling they didn't think this one through, if you ask me. If they asked a couple of Shark supporters before they launched it, took all the signage down and replaced everything else, to just ask somebody, what do you think? They would have seen, oh, sure, this is not going to work. Just your thoughts on that logo and that, that backlash.
India, let's just take a step back. All redesigns, rebranding will have some pushback. If you look at Western Province when they replaced the Daiso with that new logo for all their teams, and the Currie Cup team was also rebranded Stormers XV23 or whatever.
XXIII, yeah.
Yeah. So that got pushed back, but they want something they can brand commercially. The negative thoughts behind the Daiso and Western Province made it difficult for them to rebrand and sell that marketing, sell it in the market. So that's their thought process. The same with the Sharks. And this is not the first time the Sharks have burnt their fingers with a shark. So they had a very mean-looking shark, and then they decided, but the more plus-size fans were struggling to associate with this mean, muscle-bound shark. So they brought out a plum-looking shark, and within a year they had to replace it because it just backfired.
Yeah, maybe, I suppose. I mean, the thing with the Stormers was at least the Stormers is an established brand. Everybody knows what the Stormers is. Nobody knows what SRC is. Just one thing.
I understand that. Yeah. I'm sure there's reasoning behind it, and if given the opportunity, then maybe they'll explain it. But putting out the statements as they do, and not having opportunity to question people. So maybe it's time to get Marco on again and ask him exactly what's that behind it.
Right, good idea. Listen, let's talk about the match tonight. We keep getting sidetracked with little, inconsequential things, I suppose. Anyway, just quickly on the All Blacks, Roygaard has now been withdrawn as a precaution. They left Noah Otham at home, so they're a bit thin on halfbacks, if you ask me, scrum halves. That's a bit of a worry. The injury toll is starting to rise now. George Bell, like I said, went home. Billy Proctor's now gone home. Fractured shoulder. I said to you before we recorded, what a painful thing that must be. Yes, I can imagine. And then obviously some other issues, some injuries also being managed. I suppose that's par for the course for a tour. But I mean, it's early days yet. They've only played 1 out of 8 matches and already struggling with that kind of a thing. So do you think this All Black side tonight will be by any means disjointed, or you think they're all just getting a run out? They're supposed to be winning easily against a team like the Sharks, who's going to be pretty much a patchwork team, 70% team, JP called them. We'll talk about them just now. What's the thinking behind? What do you think? How do you think the All Blacks are going to approach this game tonight?
They will be full on. So you must remember they're all still playing for test places. So you're not going to expect these players to hold back. And that's part of the risk that you take. Injuries, trying to play for test places, you run the risk of injury, and we saw against the Stormers, it can get pretty brutal. I don't know if the Sharks will be that brutal. They're pretty thin, as you say. I don't know if it's a 70% team, but it's probably around about 50 to 60% URC team. I mean, there's a lot of Springboks that still to come back. What you will have from the Sharks is enthusiasm. So will you have the physicality that you need? I'm not sure, but you will have enthusiasm. So I still expect the All Blacks to win comfortably, but they will go full board because they need to put their hands up for test places. So you're not going to take any half chances that you think you're safe and some other player has a blinder on Saturday and suddenly you don't make the test team.
Right. Talk about enthusiasm. Who do you think is going to be most enthusiastic player on the field? And I think it's going to be Ma'a Nonu if he comes off the bench. I mean, he only arrived in Durban last week. He's already in the squad now, playing against the All Blacks. I mean, the team that he's played so many times for in the past. I'm not a big fan of this decision. I don't think it's fair towards the normal Sharks players who would have wanted to, write this in their, and I suppose their little journal to say I've played against the Stormers. Now he's being kept out of the side by a player who's never even played for the Sharks. Now suddenly he's going to play against the All Blacks. What do you think about Nonu being picked for the Sharks, and how do you think he's going to react playing against the All Blacks?
Okay, so two things. The first thing is I want him to respond to the haka, because they're going to do the haka, and he is entitled to respond to the haka. So once the All Black haka is done, Mark Nonu can step. And it's happened in Munster. Remember, it happened in Munster against the All Blacks a couple of years ago. So he can do the same thing. He can step forward and do his version of the haka and respond, and that will be lekker. That's cool. I'm looking, if he does that, I hope he does that. That'll be one of those nice side shows, better than the dancing girls we see so often that has the same routines. And then when he actually playing, being selected, I think the one thing I agree with JP is, just remember you've got your two centers, Hooker and Andre Esterhuizen with the Springboks. You've got a couple of injuries, so he's got two centers left standing. He literally has two centers left standing, so he hasn't got a choice. So Ma'a Nonu is as much. I mean, what are you going to? Who are you going to play there? Is it under 20 center? Is there? I mean, if somebody can tell me if there's a center that is capable of playing at this level, that I don't know of. But JP Peterson said he had to. There's an emergency, and I agree with him. If you got four centers, two with the Springboks, a couple of injuries, and suddenly you got left with two centers, why not play Ma'a Nonu? And it's a good marketing tool. Maybe get 10 extra people in the stand, or like I say, you get a nice reply to the haka.
Yeah. Okay. No, that makes sense. I like the idea of him having his own version of the haka. The shark
Yeah.
All right. How do you think the All Blacks are settling in? You spoke to Dave Rennie after the match against the Stormers. What's the general feeling? Are they finding their feet? Are they getting comfortable now? Is the team gelling? How's it looking?
Yeah, look, when we go watch their trainings, you only get the last 15 minutes. So in generally, and you see that they look like a happy team. There's not any major issues that I've picked up last week. Obviously, I'm not in Durban, so I wouldn't know what it's like. And again, they don't train publicly. They allow 2 media sessions for vision, or 3. So you can get media sessions but you get the last 15 minutes when either they're doing light skill drills or something, but it's better than watching the first 10 minutes when it's just warm-ups and stretching, so at least you see them do something. But you don't get to see much of their training. But I think they look okay. Rennie says they settled and he's happy with them. He's working to a plan. Look, we'll see on Saturday. I think Saturday against the Bulls is going to be a really good test for them. I expect them to play as close as possible to their test team on Saturday. I know a lot of people say tonight's their test team. Some of it, there's some test players on Friday night against the Stormers. I think there'll be some test players tonight, and then we'll probably see as close as possible to the test starting 15 on Saturday to give them a last run. And then they have a break, a week-long break before and they move up to Johannesburg and they go train in Joburg for the first test.
The interesting thing about this match is Matthew Carley is going to be the referee. He's also going to be the referee in the first test. Now, he's typically he's a very even-handed coach. We remember he was a coach against Ireland with that Scrumpalooza, remember? The one in November last year when the Springboks were scrumming them. So the lots of talk about the All Blacks maybe having an advantage being able to deal with the refs before the tests, because you're not really allowed to talk to the refs anymore if the other team doesn't agree and isn't with you when you talk to the ref. That's new rules that have come in there. So what do you think of that? And is it really an advantage to see how he's going to blow? People know how he's going to blow. It's more a question of the South Africans are used to a guy like Matthew Carley. All Blacks maybe not so more used to Southern Hemisphere referees in the Super Rugby tournament and the likes. Is that a bit of an adjustment? What do you think about the referee situation?
Okay, so let's start with the first thing, allowing the other team having to agree and be sitting in. We know for a fact that in the past, teams used to speak to the referee and point out mistakes that the other team do because they want the referee to focus. So now you have to say to the guys, face each other and say, okay, let's discuss how you're going to referee this. I still like Rassie's thing is stop talking about the referee. Let's focus on our own game And you analyze, of course you're going to analyze the referee. The referee will analyze him, and you will know what you have to avoid and make adjustments in the game. You know, if something happens and you're getting pinged a bit, make adjustments in the game. And I think Rassie got that, you know, after the Lions series, he learned that the referees are going to make mistakes. You know, if he's incompetent, he's incompetent. You just have to make adjustments. And by not moaning at the referees, we have been getting a lot better calls. So a lot of the 50-50 calls that used to go against us are now going for us, not because we sugar soap and sweet talk the referees, because we're not getting on their case all the time. You know, so they will, and they're human beings. So sometimes, you know, if you got a scrum off chirping in the ear, you hear the referee say, no more of that, no more of that. You know, that's going to irritate the referee. And you know, if there's a 50-50 call, he's just going to blow against you. And that's just human nature. So I think Rassie's approach is the best. You know, get your own game right, get your own team right. And Jaco Peyper is there giving them great advice. So I wouldn't be surprised a lot of this has to do with Jaco Peyper telling them, listen, let's just focus on us. And you can see at training sessions, the bits that you can see. Jaco is always there. You can always look at things and you can tell them, listen, focus on this, you know, or maybe tell the player, listen, you're a bit too high. And that's why, you know, only 7 penalties. I think that's the one thing where the Springboks are really good this year, is their penalty counts is down significantly. And that's because they focus on their own game. They focus on getting, you know, changing your body height and changing and making sure you're not falling over on the ruck. I mean, you still get penalized. You sometimes get a bit over enthusiastic, but by and large, I think the Springboks approach to referees are much, much better.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. I agree with that. I like that, actually. Like you said, focus on your own game. That's another cliche, but in this case, it's actually true, isn't it? Yeah, I suppose. Listen,
your game, don't adjust your game to what you think the referee is going to do, because if he does something different in a match, then you got a problem. So rather play your game and make sure it's within the laws.
All right. What are you expecting? How far are the All Blacks going to beat the Sharks?
15 to 20 points, I think.
That much?
You know, yeah, it's. I think it will be tight for the first half, and then in the second half, the All Blacks will probably put 3 tries. I mean, they scored 3 tries in the last 10 minutes 3 tries in 8 minutes against the Stormers, and that's because the Stormers ran out of puff. So, you know, if they do that against the Sharks, I don't think the Sharks will be. It was 14-all before the All Blacks scored 3 tries. So last Friday. So if the Sharks are close enough, it'll be probably a similar margin, 10, 15 points. I think closer 15 to 20 points.
No, it makes sense. I mean, it's probably going to be a weaker Sharks side than it was a Stormers side. Stormers were, yeah. I suspect, yeah. And obviously this team is also the All Blacks team. I think it might even be stronger. All right, Jan, just briefly, quickly, Rassie making mention of the Rugby Championship being moved to the Six Nation window. He wouldn't have said that without, you know, being some sort of agenda behind it, I suppose. We know SA Rugby is reviewing the tournament schedule, what games or where they participate and everything else, you know, with the global calendar thing. Any news from that? They were supposed to do that in July, now almost middle of August. Not a word. Have you heard anything?
Yeah, it's par for the course for but I mean, I'm sure they're waiting for the rugby champs or for the greatest rivalry to be over so that they can switch their focus to that. But Mark Alexander at that press conference, and I was there, made it clear that they are reviewing everything. And some people misread that and said, yeah, it's the European Championship or this. And that I think our focus is on getting New Zealand. Rassie made it clear, you know. It makes sense for us playing in the Northern Hemisphere. And we know that the 2 teams that fight against all the time is Australia and New Zealand, because they want to have their own pity party down in the South Pacific. So I think they definitely, Mark Alexander and Rassie and them are working hard at getting the rugby champs moved, because it makes sense. Everybody's got the same international window. Everybody's got the same club window. That will mean that the Super Rugby needs to adjust. I mean, but that they have to, you know, otherwise they're going to end up playing, you know, if we move on, yeah, I know people's going to say, the first thing people's going to say, where are we going to play? I think SARU's already working on alternatives to keep the Springboks active in February, March. But, you know, let's see what New Zealand and Australia is. If they dig their heels in, it's going to be interesting to know what SARU's decision is.
Okay, yeah, that's it for today, for this cold Tuesday. Appreciate you making time for us as always, and we'll talk again next week. By the way, on Sunday we're recording the four ooms, the four uncles. You and me and Ari Hougaard and Harry Jones, and we each going to pick our own Springbok side for the first test. That's going to be an interesting one. The old toppies. We're all going to have a nice little talk on this Sunday's Lekker Rugby Pod, so watch out for that one. Thank you for participating. I'm looking forward to that.
I'm also looking forward to it. Until Sunday, cheers.